Boom, we are live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight 2. I am sorry that was a, let me mute that out, improve the sound quality a little bit. Sorry that I'm a little bit late. I've been playing around with the monitor configuration and it was causing all of my screen captures to act a little bit weird. Fortunately, we seem to have that now sorted. And I got a few things to do tonight, to talk about tonight. Wait a minute, let's get that off there. Yes, so although I'm excited that live chat is now being captured and stored beside the video, at the same time it is, we decided last week, it's actually nice if I show you what I am reading and talking to. It's actually easier to follow when you watch the video back later. So I am going to keep the chat. It's going to be like double chat. Yeah, but that's okay. That's the formula of the show. I hope you're all well. I've got a few notices, a few bits and pieces this week. We got the Hanami. We have actually an important thing I've been asked to pass around, but actually it's a worthwhile message about counselling services in Tokyo, as well as big updates on MyChan TV, which I want to give first before going into all the content that we have this week. If there's time at the end, might do tune, but yeah, we'll see how we get through. I feel like a drink of water just because I'm so stressed out from all the technical issues from before the show. We got everyone in here. Where to start? Let's start with the Hanami. The Hanami is going to be on April 7th. Now, some people might be wondering, well, I thought that Hanami started yesterday. In fact, it started the day before yesterday in Tokyo, and it is due to last until the full bloom is going to be around the end of March. It's going to be March 28th to 29th in Tokyo, which means certainly if you're in Tokyo, get out during the week this week. Certainly next weekend is probably going to be the best weekend for actually doing Hanami, for actually looking at flowers. Some people asking perhaps, so what's happening with the YouTube Hanami, which is scheduled for April 7, which is clearly going to fall after the scheduled Hanami. Well, the tension that we always have with this every year, and there's been different approaches, and it's maybe changed over the year. When the Hanami used to be a very local event, everyone would say, fix the date early so I can make travel plans, and Tokyo Kuni would basically say, screw you, this is a Tokyo event, we're going to do it when it's Hanami in Tokyo, and he wouldn't announce it till like a week or two before, and it was basically Tokyo Kuni's Hanami that everyone would just go along to, and it became very big based on that, and it was great. However, I think as more people have people who come to Tokyo for this, people who travel for this, it is one of the big gathering events. Plus, trying to make the summer party an alternate gathering event failed last year. I didn't get to do it, of course. So yeah, this is really sort of the big regular gathering in the calendar. It's the one time of the year that you can really get to meet a lot of other YouTubers. It's a big launch time for a lot of people, and changing, especially for people coming from out of town, people flying in, the date's the date. So yeah, on top of all of that, Zach is the guy who would have to take all of the hate if we changed it, and he's the guy willing to stand out in the freezing cold rain at 7 o'clock in the morning to secure the site. So we had a bit of a debate as to whether we change the date, and he said no. People, he knows that there's a lot of people who have made commitments around this date. It'd be really hard, I think, for people who have work schedules that they can't shift in March. You'd just get a lot of grief about that. So if you want to do Hanami, go do it. The big YouTube Hanami, which I will be at, and which I am really looking forward to seeing all of you guys, will still be on April 7th, so don't worry about that. The good news is, one, there will still be cherry blossom flowers. There are always some early ones, there are always some late ones, so we'll be able to find somewhere in the park that will have cherry blossom, so you'll get to do still kind of a Hanami. Plus, there won't be so many people. It'll be easier to get a spot. These are all positives, I think, anyway. Look, Hanami is on. It's going to be April 7th in Yoyogi Park. There's an event page I should be messaging, but I'll tweet it and so on in the coming days. I will be there. I will be there with this very good stuff, which I'm going to start showing you some more stuff soon. I'm going to have some t-shirts and some swag for the, I'll update you on my channel in a moment. But it is going to be awesome. It's going to be like the one time in the year that everyone catches up. Did I not say boom? Hillcrest Daily. Pretty sure I normally say boom. I think I said boom at the very beginning. If I missed the boom, I apologize. How could I have proceeded without saying boom? Well, this is very important. I think that's the thing. I need to make sure. Hanami is not changing. It's going to be Saturday, April 7th. Be there and be square. Because that's the thing nowadays, and I will see you there, and it will be awesome. I'm going to bring some swag. I tried to swing some YouTube swag, but YouTube's been going through some changes lately, and they're not doing the swaggy thing quite so much. I was not able to swing that, but I'm bringing MyChan swag, and that's going to kick ass. So yeah, anyway, Hanami's going to be awesome, and thanks again to Zach for being the person who yes, is going to be the one to go and secure the spot and whatnot. And hey Zach, if you're prepared to take the hate, then shift it to next week. But I think it's a legitimate position that, you know, this is intended now to be an accessible party for everybody. And, you know, on the one hand, you can't do much to, it's the seasons. If you really want to do a proper Hanami, you got to do it next week. And you never know until the week before. You can't predict this. Even from February, you can't predict this. So I'm old school. I like the way that Tokyo Kuni did it, which is pretty much guys like Victor would always get pissed off because it was always too short notice. But that's what Hanami is. That's the magic of it. It's, you know, and everyone else has their Hanami when they have Hanami. Why does Tokyo have to suffer? Was always sort of the philosophy. So it's like, we're Tokyo, screw you. But, you know, I think it's a bigger event, and it's very good of Zach that he's being considerate towards everybody else to make sure it's a good party. And it is going to be a good party. There will also be a backup plan, by the way, if it is piss raining. We'll probably just go and take over a pub instead. And bear in mind, I'll mention this closer to the date, but when you go to Hanami, be it the YouTube Hanami or any other Hanami, you always take your own drinks, and you take drinks from some other people and some snacks. You take a little bit extra, and you clean up after yourself. This is not a bar. The stuff isn't provided. Don't expect that. That said, normally you take a little bit extra. It's like a good house party. There's always stuff left over. It should be awesome. So yeah, you can see all the hype there in the comments. Let's see. Oh, let me go on to the next one. Another big one next. MyChan. We were in limited beta. Thank you. I had like 20. I only really wanted 10 actually, but a lot of people asking to be limited beta participants, so I ended up getting like about 15 to 20. I expected that. So how this works is that I've spent like a year tinkering away with this thing. I had a prototype because I didn't want to build it if I didn't think it wouldn't work. I figured out that what I wanted to build worked, so then I thought I'd make it pretty, I'd develop it really well. This and that, kind of, you know, wanted to do it right, so I got it to a point where I thought it was okay to go out as a beta. It's going to be an open beta, which means that I'm not going to wall access to it. However, in the beginning, I don't want to have, you know, with the first bug catching, there's always bugs. And I don't want to have 200 people messaging me the same bugs. I just won't be able to process all of that. So I asked for 10 people to go onto the site, to kick the tires on it, really use it, find as many bugs as possible, find as many things that I hadn't found, and I'd already tested it. The good news is that we found a couple of things, you know, a couple of bugs, but it was pretty good quality as a beta goes. Most of the feedback was actually just little tweaks and improvement stuff, which is pretty implementable, and actually a lot of really good ideas, some ideas I hadn't thought about. So the result of that is I ended up getting, also I use this tool called Intercom. I'm going to set up a separate blog dedicated to MyChan to get to updating and so on. So I want to, you know, set it up as a legitimate site. But the thing called Intercom, it's a little chat window which pops up, which you can actually chat with me. I'll get an email if you leave a comment on it, but it'll record if you leave comments and feedback, and you can use it while you're using the site, and I can chat with you and find out, hey, what's this bug that you're seeing, and figure it out. So it's awesome. So it actually ended up meaning that from these 15 people, I was expecting like, I don't know, 20 bits of feedback or whatever. I got like 60 really good ideas and bits of feedback, and 30 of them I'm putting into development and into upgrades. Those upgrades are being done right now, and when they are done, which I was hoping might be, it's probably too hopeful to hope for it like by now, but certainly in the next week I think they're going to probably be done, and probably this time next week I'm going to say open beta, at which time I will say to everybody watching this, don't go in there yet, because right now stuff is still being, you know, fixed. It's not quite ready for everyone to go kick around. I don't want you to see it when it's, you know, not nice, but I think it's going to be in really kick-ass shape next week, and I will announce open beta. And what open beta means is I will ask you guys to come in all as testers again. First of all, I want to find the final bugs, because I think we've got the big ones. I think it's pretty much good to go. And if everyone's liking it and the big bugs are out, I'll then be asking you guys about how I should get this ready for launch. And when it's ready for launch, yeah, then I'll be asking for you guys then to go out and tell everybody about it. But for now, look out. I'm going to be announcing on my Twitter, my Facebook, my YouTube, everything. You can actually follow. I've got a MyChan TV, Twitter, Facebook, everything. I'm going to be announcing there when I'm going to say everybody race in there. But when I say race in there for beta, it's going to be for you guys to try it out Tell me what you like. Tell me what you'd like to see. Give me your sort of feedback and how you like it, and help me get it ready for full launch, because you don't want to launch it when it's got bugs and it pisses everybody off, right? You want it to be like, wow, when people first use it. But I'm really going to be asking for your guys' help and everybody's help, actually, in the next few days. Let me do the fixes that we're doing. You can see it right now, but don't, because it's kind of half-baked. Let me finish it up. And yeah, it's going to be hopefully open beta next week, and we'll see. I'll leave it in open beta for about a month, and I'll probably ask you guys for things about how I should get it ready for full launch. And yeah, certainly I've also got some shirts made. Hopefully I'll bring some along to the Hanami. They'll be there in time. I've got heaps of stickers and stuff. Anyway, they're really cool. I've got them on my mobile phone and so on. But it's going to be pretty sweet. Anyway, the dark switch indeed worked. That was like the first thing that I wanted. And although beta is supposed to be like is supposed to be minimum viable product, it's got to be like the bare bones. I was like, dark mode is bare bones. And YouTube, they actually launched dark mode for mobile this week. I don't know, maybe they're I very much doubt that they're watching me, but yes, they had seriously, they had 12 years to come up with that idea, and they didn't do it, so I just got frustrated and did it myself. And just when I released the beta, that's when they fix it. But never mind, I'm going to feel like this about every upgrade that YouTube does from now on, because the idea is that the site, it's awesome. I was vacuuming the house today, and I was just I just had my curated playlist of subscriptions, stuck a headphone and had my phone in my pocket, so I wasn't seeing the video, but it was like listening to a podcast. One click, and it's just converting all of my subscriptions into a podcast, except it's all my subscriptions grouped by genre. So for example, I was doing web development playlist. I could do comedy. I could catch up with my with my vlogs, and it's just really cool. It's a great way to catch up with people. Bald Berlitz boy, very, very funny. One more message before we start the show, and I realize it's already 48 minutes in, and I'm saying that we're about to start the show, but it is what it is. So you might have seen I tweeted and I put on Facebook yesterday a message that was worth sharing, and let me open this up so I do it correctly. But there's a site called tell.jp. It's an MPO that is the only certified counseling, in fact, what is counseling site in Japan that offers services in English, and yeah, it's being forwarded by them, and it's basically a service. In fact, I believe I can. Let me flip all the way to this, because let me say this first. I've got the info about it as well. But basically, as you know, Japan has the #1 suicide rate in the world, and this month is apparently March is Suicide Awareness Month in Japan. And on that, I went way too far. Wait a minute. I'll get it soon. I skipped. Boom. Here. So this is the site, telljp.com. So there we go. I said it wrong there for a moment. On this, let me here. Okay, so I've got it now. Basically, let me just tell you a little bit about the site. So you can see the logo there of the site and so on. Tell is basically, so here's the deal. March is Suicide Awareness Month in Japan. Japan has the third highest suicide rate in the world. It's not the highest. Last year was 21,140 people died. It's also a preventable cause of death. And basically, just make sure. I just want people to be aware that this thing is out there. It's kind of different with foreigners in a sense. It's a different phenomenon, but I think the thing about being a foreigner in Japan is that you are away from your typical support networks when you're here. It's actually naturally either you're isolated, which is the route that I took, and I got into a tough time when I first got here, or you're around other foreign friends that are constantly leaving, which in itself, the bubble life in itself can, you experience types of stress and pressure here that you don't get elsewhere. So, I just want people to be aware that this thing exists. Basically, this service, it's Japan's only certified English language lifeline. Last year, apparently, they took more than 7,800 calls. And yeah, so the number, the info is there on the site. It's telljp.com, but yeah, the phone number for it is 0357740992. They're available between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. Every day of the year. They've got a lifeline chat service on the weekend too, if you want to text, apparently. Yeah, it's a confidential, non-judgmental service that offers support in English to anyone who needs help. So basically, if you're feeling distressed, depressed, lonely, suicidal, if you're worried, you just need someone to talk anyway, the service is available. Also, if you have skills in this area, and this is one thing as well, I am not a good person to come to with these sorts of problems, and it's because I know how tough it is to be a counsellor as well. But that said, if you are someone who's trained and qualified in this stuff, and you are able and willing to help people, they take volunteers, or you can make donations to the site as well, which you can access there. You can see there on the web page. So yeah, look, just share information about the site. Just spread the word that this thing is available, because I think there have been times in Japan, particularly in my early years in Japan, where I could have used a service like this myself. I think everyone gets into really tough moments here, and it doesn't always work out well for people, but it's actually really cool to know that this is there. And I was asked to help spread the word about it, and this is a legit thing. It's the thing about Japan is that it's a roller coaster ride. As a foreigner, you come here and you get this massive high that you're in, like this sort of wonder world, and then it's just unavoidable. It's almost like chemical. You come off the high. It takes a few months. Sometimes it takes 6 months. Sometimes it takes even a year. There's normally different sort of time periods that you go through. There's a massive high for 3 months, and there's a bit of an adjustment, and then there's like the year drop off, and then there's a 3-year drop off. But things can influence those things, right, as well, right? Like I had a big breakup on my 3rd month here that caused that first dip to be a bit of a crash. Yeah. You don't always have those friends and family and support networks that you have at home when you're here. It's part of the adventure that you're out on your own, but it can be tough. And just spread the word about this. It's a good thing for people to know about. And yeah. Ko Hoshino, you don't see any public report about suicide in Japan. Yeah, I'm not sure where they get this number from either. I'm sure that there are official statistics somewhere. But in any case, it's just, I think this is a good service to be aware of. So that's it. Hanami, MyChan, and Tell. Those are the things I wanted to mention before we started. Let's see who's in the chat. I see lots of people in the chat, and that is an excellent thing. But I want to say hello to all of you. So there we go. Tai Nakamura, first comment indeed. Boom. That is very excellent. Good to see you, sir. We've got Phoenix787, who's already talking about Hanami. There's Bald Berlitz Boy. Nothing wrong with being bald or a Berlitz Boy. So very good to have you in here. Robert Old Dude. Who here ordered a technical nuke? I think you're going to have to return that because no one did. Odie Jr., good to see you. Hurry up and boom. I'm actually awake, and I hope you're still awake now. I'm sorry I was late. My monitor setup was just a bit screwed up, and technical issues are a part of the show. Mr. Quaddy Chip says that I look scarier than ever. I'm a scary man. That's what I am. Although, Wallace, come on, Wallace and Gromit. I mean, that's from Shaun the Sheep, isn't it? No, it's Wallace and Gromit, that's right. I'm sorry, but they're not scary, jeez. Who else we got in here? Quint Ranked, yes indeed. That was an old thumbnail, but I'm recycling old thumbnails lately. I think they're quite nice. If you ever want to make me new ones, I'll take them and I'll use them. I think those ones are really excellent. Fox Morris did a whole bunch of them. Now Wallace and Gromit, well, I'm not sure who did that actually. I can't recall, but it's excellent. So I love those, and please, I don't know, if someone wants to do me like a Black Panther one or something, I don't know how that would quite work. In fact, it probably might be offensive, so maybe you should not do that. But anyway, I just, I'll open to submissions. Who else we got in here? We got Mr. Cordy Chip and Phoenix chatting up a storm there with Odie Jr. Still there. Mario Lagos, boom, indeed, I am here, and we are doing this. Good to see you. Who else we got in here? We got Brad Ford, good to see you. Yes, ready to rumble. I'm sorry I was 6 minutes late. Everyone, that expectation is pretty hard to keep sustained there for that long when I have technical issues. I'm sorry about that. Barringer, hurry up. You can see the stress and the tension building as I fail to log in. Hillcrest Daily, have things started? No, they have not. Hey guys, there we go, that's me. I'm Hiko Simon. Maybe you've heard of me before. Hillcrest Daily. By the way, is that like, that's not like New Zealand, Auckland Hillcrest, is it? I mean, Hillcrest is like a suburb in Auckland, but I don't know if that's you, actually. Never paid the money back. Mr. Quiddy Chip is not angry, Mark. He's angry at not being angry. I don't understand that. I'm scanning. Dave O'Hunter, good to see you. Very good to have you in the show. And who else we got? Olivia D, good to see you. And looks like everybody here is partying at this point. And anyone else? We got Robert Aldu, Bad Bullets Boy, Davo, Kikansha Thomas, good to see you. Thought Lithuania and Korea were at the top of the list in suicides. I think you're right about that, actually, given that Japan was number 3. Your suicide statistic knowledge is impressive. What can I say? 21k, it's a lot of people. It is indeed a lot of people. Fashionably late for Sergeant Bilko. Don't worry, I was even, well, in fact, I think you were later than me, but we were about the same, so it's okay. You didn't miss anything. Auntie Liana, good to see you. This live recognizes as restricted content. Is that right? This is restricted content? Why is this restricted content? Is that because I put Tkyosamgate in the title? I wonder why that is. That's really interesting. Pay attention to what he's saying. It's because he started talking about rival service to YouTube. It's not my rival service, it's a service for watching YouTube. Don't be silly about that, Mr. Cordychair. That's funny, just change to dark mode. Any public report. That is interesting, actually. I'm kind of spooked by Auntie Liana. How has this come up as restricted content? That's interesting. I might look that up later anyway. Radri is here. It's good to see you, Radri. And Criso de la Erikejo, good to see you. Thought that there wouldn't be a Tokyo tonight because of the Hanami. Well, it only just like started to bloom today. So there's a couple of buds. I took a photo of one today, but it's not full. It's going to be full on next weekend. I'm not a heavy drinker, so I will be on. Don't worry about that. But yeah. Kran, good to have Kran with us, along with Derek Armstrong. We're all in there. That's very good to see all of you guys. Who else we got in here? Sergeant Bilko and Baye McNeil's made it. Baye, and I've got your story coming up first, so that's going to be excellent. And Genji 931, good to see you. The video hasn't started. You might need to refresh the page as you just did. Indeed, at 10:56 I definitely started, so refresh may have been in order if you couldn't see it. And we are all in here, so we are all caught up and in the house. Why is this video restricted content? What did I call the title of this again? I mean, the only thing I have is the title. I called it, what was the title? Tkyosamgate, Hanami, MyChan, and English counseling in Japan. Perhaps counseling? I don't know. Is that sensitive? I mean, geez, I'm offering MPO information. I'm not sure about what that is about, but anyway, I'm glad that you're all here and accessible, and yeah, it's all cool. So let's get into the subjects that I have lined up for tonight. We are only 30 minutes through the show, so boom. And check it out. Japan Times, Mr. Baye McNeil, the man, the very same man on the class. Try to setting and on restrictions content, can't see your video. Why is that? Why is that? Quid Racket, I don't think it's, I'm sorry, yeah, it's very distracting. Quid Racket, I don't think it's restricted. Everyone seems to be able to watch though, yes indeed. But I guess if you've got like kiddie safe or something like that, I mean, not that I'm going for the 8-year-old demographic, but maybe that's it. I'm glad you can all see my video. If someone can help me figure that one out, I would appreciate it. I would also appreciate, by the way, if people like the video to remember to like and all that good stuff. Yes, I'm going to come back to talking about MyChan, but I've got some good ideas about that. And this is the whole idea about MyChan, is it's going to help you guys watch more YouTube in the standard YouTube player, and it's just going to help creators get more views and so on and more engagement. But anyway, we'll come back to that. Could Black Panther change how Japanese people view people of color? This is interesting. So Baye McNeil, of course, huge fan of the movie Black Panther, which I must confess I haven't seen, so I don't feel entirely qualified to talk about it at too much length. But that's it. The movie has had rave reviews. Everyone I know who's seen it, including Victor and so on, have been raving about it. I've been looking for a chance to see it. I've just, my family, thumbnail, that might be it. Yeah, Odie Jr., that's a good point. Maybe I should change the thumbnail. Well, it's parody, but it's, that might explain it. Yeah, anyway. The movie apparently has been doing really well. I've really not been into the Marvel movies. Like, even though it's directed by Kiwi, I haven't felt like seeing Thor or anything like that. It's just like all of a sudden every comic thing's a movie. But I am interested in seeing Black Panther, and if I can see it on the next flight or whatever, I know I should see it at a movie theater. I am interested in watching it. I really like Deadpool. I dug that. But you know, I don't know. I don't. I could care less about another Spider-Man or another Batman or another Superman movie or anything like that. But I must admit, I do want to see Black Panther. I like new heroes. I like Guardians of the Galaxy, and by all account, I wasn't swearing like crazy last week, Mr. Cordychip. Yeah, so I definitely want to see this. And people, of course, comment that the lead characters are African and from a secret country and so on, and a fictional country. And it talks about the dynamics of both being a diaspora African and as opposed to an African, and there's basically a story set entirely around apparently actors, people of color. This of color thing, by the way, that's an American term that I was confused by. I thought of color meant not white, but then I got to America and I discovered that when at my old law firm there was a dinner for attorneys of color, it excluded Asian people, which I was like, well, it's funny because in places where people are like racist, they're definitely treated as color, but apparently of color means basically black people. Does it include Hispanics or not? I mean, if it doesn't include Asian people, it shouldn't include Hispanics. But I'm a little bit confused by it. But I basically understand that, it means African Americans and whatnot, I suppose. So in terms of the question posed by the article, how does it change? Well, does it have a chance of changing the view Japanese people have of people of color? Well, first thing is, although obviously Bai McNeil is the best person to say how people of his appearance, people of color, are perceived in Japan, I'm not quite so sure that the image is so fixed or so. I'm not sure it's entirely negative for a start. I mean, like I said, I'm a white person living in Japan who sees Japanese media, and yes, there is blackface, and there is ignorance, and there is a general lack of exposure. But at the same time, clearly you meet a lot of Japanese people who are very enamored with African culture, and both African and African American culture, which are very different things. I don't know, I think you find a more of an innocent kind of open-mindedness. I don't know that necessarily. Bai McNeil describes prejudice that he runs into, and of course, and he points out that the main reason for that, or a big influencer in that, is the fact that black culture and black people are so uniformly portrayed negatively. Every perception of them is through the movies that come out from the US, or Boys in the Hood and all these sorts of they're playing drug dealers or they're playing bad guys or whatever. And there aren't many visible media-based positive stereotypes of people for black people themselves to aspire to, or Japanese people to form their very shallow, superficial views of black people. That said, I think that is very much offset by the music and by the by other culture that is associated with sports, music and so on. But no question that US media is actually probably the biggest enemy of a positive image of colored people, both in America, of people of color, both in America and outside of America. So it is kind of good to see something working to counterbalance that in a small way. And the success of the movie says that it sounds like they did in a really good way, and it was made by knowing that it was also made largely by directors and actors and producers from that background as well. I think Boys in the Hood was great, but they're not exactly a cast of people that you would invite over for your homestay, right? I mean, yes. So it's a good movie, but in terms of the sort of stereotypes being perpetuated, these are still negative stereotypes. You wouldn't want all African American people to be judged as being cast members of Boys in the Hood, no matter how much you thought they were excellent characters or that was a good movie, which it was. So yeah, I don't know. I think every little bit helps. By himself, he sort of mentions this is a great movie, and it's great to see something kind of balancing that. I agree. I don't know that it's going to change views per se. I think it's just going to add to the weight of things that are just going to hopefully balance out the easy to take perceptions that are out there. When people when people don't have exposure to people of color, and they form it based on the media, and the media tends to tell the same story, it's nice to have something to counterbalance that. Good or bad is not the issue. And we're a little bit out of sync now, so I'm not sure if you're talking about whether Boys in the Hood is a good or bad, Well, I think being able to perceive, I think the point that you pointed out in the article that I also think you're touching on is the idea of being able to perceive people more holistically and not as stereotypes based on the way that they're portrayed in the media, and being able to see more nuanced heroes, villains, all these sorts of things in a movie, just rather than the kind of one-dimensional stereotypes that a lot of Japanese are exposed to and have. Sure, that's a positive thing, and it's something that I hope that we see a lot more of. Yeah, I can't wait to see the movie myself and make my own judgment, but everything I've read says it's very good and I should go out and see it. So there we go. Yeah, let's see what it does. And of course, Japan is being so crazy internationalized. One other thing as well, I know, just as a random aside, but kind of on the subject, Baya, you may be familiar with how China is really going deep into, Africa at the moment. They're trying to basically, the colonial powers have such a bad rep there, and they're kind of trying to supplant them at the moment. And, they're investing quite heavily in a lot of those countries, and they're offering these sort of exchange programs and so on, where there's a lot of people from Africa on trading programs going into China at the moment. There's a lot of exchange happening between China and Africa. A lot of Chinese people are moving to Africa, a lot of Africans are moving to China. Very different to Japan, by the way. Investing, yes, your kind of new type of colonialism perhaps, but one way or the other, they're recognizing there's an opportunity for them to probably secure resources and Lebensraum, living space or whatever, for an overpopulated China, at the same time as an opportunity to actually benefit from countries less developed than them, with technology exchange and the ability to have, in the same way that Chinese people have come to Japan on training schemes, they have African people going to China. And I really actually find it, I'm really interested to understand how China's perception is going to be in Africa, and vice versa, how Africa's perception is over there. They've got really deep exchanges. I mean, there's a lot of Chinese people living over there, and I'm always really curious, because China's been much more isolated than Japan, at least to the world outside of China. China's a huge country. And I must admit, I'm always curious over there as well, what is the perception of people of color, and how does its exposure, probably more to Africa than to America, actually. I've always been curious about how that's been influenced. Been doing that since the 70s? Well, yes, indeed. Well, they've been doing that, sort of, Maoists have been supporting movements all over Africa, but in terms of, really economically, building everyone airports and kind of getting kind of really serious, pushing out, replacing the French in a lot of places. Now that they have the economic clout to do it, they're actually doing it a lot more. But, yeah. Anyhow, very interesting subject, and I'm looking forward to seeing that movie. What else do we have? We've got a lot of subjects to get through this week, so this is kind of interesting. This is how people from different countries tour around Japan. What is really interesting about this is that Koreans and Chinese, as you can see, kind of based on a heat map of where they travel, get around Japan. You can pretty much see Chinese get all over Japan, Koreans as well. People seem to love Hokkaido, obviously, Tokyo, Osaka. Whereas you take Americans, they're very targeted. Tokyo, Osaka, Hokkaido, Okinawa, very bright down there as well. Yeah, the heat map is a lot more concentrated. In fact, that was Taiwan. Actually, Taiwan makes some sense, but compared to China and Korea, Taiwan is a lot more concentrated. America a lot more concentrated. Thailand, Southeast Asia, you can see it's all Kansai, Kanto, Hokkaido, for Australia as well. So just interesting to sort of see as well that Korea and China at least seem to see more of Japan. They seem more diligent about that. Genji 931, well, overpopulated parts of China, overpopulated. It is a big country, but and they have built a lot of cities that they haven't filled up, but it's a very densely populated. I mean, I went a number of times to the number 23 city in Japan, and it's double the population of Yokohama, the number 2 city in Japan. So China's mind-bogglingly populated. But yes, anyway. Stickers. I've got a picture of stickers, but I've got them here. I've already talked about MyChan and the updates. Look out for open beta this week, where I'm going to be asking all of you beautiful people to come and help me find the final bugs and help me figure out how to get it into launch shape. And by launch, it'll mean telling everybody fill your boots, and also thinking about if I was going to ask for a Patreon based premier tier, I want it to be basically a free site that everyone can use, but if I'm going to have some pro features, what should those be that would make it worthwhile? Can't wait for your help on that. But the first thing is I just want you guys to check it out. It's going to be basically, as I've said, it's going to let you guys organize your subscriptions and create bundles, basically like collections, like YouTube used to have, except they're going to be a bit more flexible than that, and it's going to let you autoplay them backwards or forwards, so you can catch up on all of your subs super easy, and it's going to be awesome. Oh yeah, this is a cool app that came out. It's called, let me show you. It's this thing over here, Neon. It was actually, I think it was Rocket News tweeted about it. It doesn't actually shoot video, but if you just have it as the monitor and you hold another camera behind it, you can shoot video, and it looks super like Tron neon stuff. And to me, I really like that. It looks really, really awesome. Phoenix. There's not going to be paywalled. It is not going to be paywalled. It's going to be freemium. It's going to be free. But at the same time, it's a business, right? Or at least I have to be able to keep it running, and it will cost money to host, because I'm not doing it as a Chrome extension. I'm doing it, and those things exist, but they are dependent on the UI of the site. They always break and so on. And this is going to be a full-on website. It's going to work independently, and it's going to be a better way of watching. So yeah, and Dave, I'm really glad that you like how it looks, because I spent a lot of time thinking about it, and the UI is really, really awesome. And yes, it is going to be it's not going to be paywalled. It's going to be free to access. All you're going to need is a YouTube account with subscriptions to be able to use it. But the point is, I want to make it worthwhile for people. I want to make people feel like they're getting something awesome enough from it, that if they are able to, that they're willing to support me with about a cup of coffee a month or something like that. I don't know. I'll figure it out later. But this is what I want to get you guys help with. I don't want to drive people away. I want it to be free, and it will be free, I expect, for most users. But I want to be able to get enough that I don't have to shut it down at some point, right? And yeah, and I don't want to end up divorced from spending so much money on developing it. It's beautiful though. It really is. The beta guys, Davo is one of the beta users, so take it from him. It's a really good site. Let's have a look at this. Genji, I don't know if my channel will do this, but if you can get sort options for your multi-hundred video playlist, that would be great. Also, show which videos have been removed. Yes, indeed, kinda. Well, it can. Well, what it will do is it'll auto-create playlists rather than help you edit those playlists. So you won't need to create those playlists. You have to create playlists one by one. It's so painful. This will just auto-create playlists based on groupings within your subscriptions, and it'll be awesome. You'll love it. And there will be sort features, and there'll be all sorts of things that you can curate and just get the videos that you want, and it will be sweet. So yes, sort by channel. Yes, you can sort by channel. In fact, you can actually group channels together by theme. Selection, deletion, reordering. So listen, Genji, you sound like the sort of person I will want in that little intercom chat window, telling me all the stuff while you're using the site. Tell me what you like and tell me what you'd like to see. But yes, Genji 931, you wish it was available for Android. Yeah, me too. But what do you still? Here's an interesting one. The MemePo, the Japanese civil code, is being amended. The law's been submitted to amend it, and it's going to lower the age of majority in Japan from 20 to 18. So in Japan, everything basically, you can't make contracts, you can't drink, you can't pretty much do anything in Japan, although you can get married. Women could get married, I think, in Japan. There is no like legalized minimum age, but I think women can get married from like 15 in Japan. They're going to make everything across the board 18. Drinking, criminal liability, the ability to make contracts. It is a little bit strange that you don't have to go to high school. Mandatory education in Japan ends at 15, but you can go and work at a factory between 15 and 20, but you can't buy a beer after work until you're 20. That's a little bit strange, and the global standard is generally 18, so it will be coming down to 18, and yeah, that'll be pretty good. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that changes, and yeah, it'll be good to look out for anyway. It is a little bit strange to me when you're in New Zealand, by the way. The drinking age was 20, and it was always a little bit strange not being able to drink when I was at university and all my friends were working. So that is coming soon. Interesting here, Lifehack has been doing a bit of a series lately on cheapest places to stay in Japan, or basically travel series on Japan. I think it's building up with Olympics. There's a lot of tourism, a lot of interest in traveling to Japan, and Lifehacker, which is a normal American blog, they've been doing a lot of Japan-focused blogs, and this is actually pretty good. The first piece of advice I do not recommend, but they seem to enjoy it, so good for them. If you're looking for cheap options to stay while you're traveling, for accommodation while you're traveling, they give some here, and the first that they give is capsule hotels. Capsule hotels, I will tell you once again, they're for drunk, throwing up, unable to travel people home. They're noisy, they're unpleasant, they have people being sick in those capsule hotels. I mean, I know people who have stayed in them, not foreigners, Japanese people, and they told me it was like hellish that they stayed in them. However, foreigners seem to stay in them and they like them. It is very movie-like, and if it's only for one night and it's only like $20, I mean, hell, why not? But you know, they've got a shower, they've got a bed, and everything like that. But I wouldn't recommend it. But there again, I do know, and even me myself, before I came to Japan, that's one of the things I thought I would do. I've been here 20 years and I haven't done it, because I've been warned by my Japanese friends, you do not want to go there, and I'm warning you, you do not want to go there. But if you do, go do it. These guys enjoyed it well enough. Manga cafes, internet cafes, these are, yeah, you can go to, actually these are pretty good. They have food, they have unlimited internet, DVDs and so on. Yeah, so you can actually go sleep reasonably well in a comfy chair or whatever, and you can shower in them, and people often do this when they're waiting for like first train in the morning when they go out all night, so that's pretty good. Business hotels have always been about $100, and they've always been really sort of cramped. They've always felt a little bit expensive, but as they point out, if you manage it right, if you book well in advance at the right time, you can actually swing pretty good deals from business hotels. Economy hotels as well, $20 to $60 a night. So yeah, Lifehacker has some good information there, and this is all in the magazine. You can go and catch the links, but it does indeed beat sleeping in the alley, which you can do safely enough in Japan. But yeah. Another one, Airbnb registrations became open this week. So Japan, in recognition that there probably isn't enough accommodation for the Tokyo Olympics, and the spread of Airbnb and the fact that it's already happening, it's actually illegal at the moment to sublet apartments for Airbnb purposes, to have non-registered hoteling, which is what Airbnb is. However, recognizing that the law needed to keep up, they actually allowed a new law this week that you had to register if you're going to be offering your apartment on a sublet basis for for use as a hotel type accommodation, i.e. if you wanted to run an Airbnb, it became possible on a registration basis this week. However, that said, most landlords in Japan have made it clear they do not want their tenants using their apartments for Airbnb, so do not do this if you're renting an apartment without the landlord's permission, as you might get into a lot of trouble for it. However, if you can do it, or if the landlord wants to do it, you can go and register. However, NHK did a little bit of a scare thing. All the coverage of the Airbnb and the registrations of this was overwhelmingly negative. I was watching the NHK thing. I captured this off the screen, talking about all the sort of problems you have, noisy foreigners, sort of, yeah, basically the idea. I'd say, oh, geez, I think I know that guy down there on the bottom right. People talk about the typical Japanese things about not separating rubbish, about having strangers wandering around, not knowing if it's safe or not or whatever. Did I swear, Mr. Korichep? Oh, okay. I didn't even notice there. I don't think I ever was censoring per se. I don't think I swear a lot, but anyway, that is the 200 series. It's 500 series Shinkansen between Osaka and Fukuoka, and they now have a Hello Kitty version of it, and yeah, it looks pretty cool. Although the caption for it is now over there. It looks pretty. I always thought this was the cool. It looks like an F-18 or something. It's the coolest looking Shinkansen to start with. They've done an Evangelion version of this, and they're now doing a Hello Kitty version. Even the Hello Kitty version of it looks pretty cool, actually. Yeah, no more EVA, but what can you do? It's a cool train, the old 500. This is an interesting one. There is the slave labor apprentice visa system that if you ever want to come to Japan, earn 200 yen an hour, have your passports withheld from you, and basically get abused working on a farm, in some cases leading to the murder of the people running the businesses by the disgruntled foreign employees or people who run away or whatever. It's just been a disastrous scheme. The idea is a good idea of having a scheme to allow people to come to Japan to learn apprenticeships. However, the fact that the scheme's largely been abused as a way of finding cheap labor, and for jobs that often don't require, that are not apprenticeship-like in nature. They're not for higher skill training. They're actually just for menial labor. It's been very widely abused, and one of the ways that it's been widely abused is that foreign apprentices have been used for cleaning radioactive waste in Fukushima. The government's now specified that will be removed from the scope of apprenticeships that are permitted under the visa scheme. I really want to go. I think this scheme generates such terrible publicity for the Japanese government. It is good that they are starting to do things like this to clean it up, but it really needs an overhaul. They need to focus a little bit less on badly behaving gaijins running away from their masters under this visa scheme, which is sort of where the Justice Ministry has been on this. Like some huge number, like a few thousand people ran away from their visa sponsors last year, but they should be looking at why are they running away, starting with the fact that these people are being underpaid and being used as slave labor, I mean, pretty much. And these people go back and they talk about Japan, it's really bad for Japan's international image. I put up a blog, by the way. MyChan TV has a blog, mychantv.tv/blog. I was kind of summarizing the outcome of the beta this week. That's interesting. It doesn't display very nicely on what kind of displays. It's transparent. The logo is transparent. It doesn't display great on mobile, but here I kind of summarized in the one big thing that we found out. If or when you get to open beta, we get to open beta and you use it, make sure that your subscriptions in your privacy settings, which are very deeply buried in YouTube, but I've got a link so you can jump straight to them. Make sure your subscriptions are set for not set for private, because if they're set for private, the API will not read them. They're private. You will not share them, i.e. with my app or anything else. That was a catch that apparently of the 20 users, like 5 or 6 people apparently had the setting on and totally forgot about it. So yeah, that was actually, for me, that was the greatest find, because I wouldn't have known how to figure that one out. If someone, in fact, somebody from Facebook who asked to use the app, Colin Gregory, I think, a guy from Canada, he figured out the privacy setting. That is it there. Make sure that is not checked, or else the app won't work. That was really cool. Had just a really great experience using this chat thing. There's a little chat window that we use in MyChan. It's called Intercom, and it's basically something which lets you chat directly with me, and I can actually say, hey, well, what are you looking at? What do you like? What don't you like? And yeah, it was really super cool. The other thing that I really like about the blog that I've set up with this, I've put in a few bells and whistles. It's not minimum product like it should be, but I did get this Amazon Poly plugin with the WordPress blog. If you press play on that, it's text to voice. It's a voice that will read the blog to you. But what is amazing is, all these sort of AI sort of making stuff sound natural. I was using this while I was editing it, so it's really natural sounding. I was really impressed. It was spooky. I actually went in, I changed the sentence, and I pressed play again, and it read it to me that instant, totally naturally, like a person reading it to me. And it kind of freaked me out, actually. It's a small thing, but I think it's just super cool, the Amazon Poly plugin on WordPress. So I use that with the blog, and it's really cool. You should actually turn it on while you're reading. It's not my voice, but here's the point: I don't have to record it. It just automatically does it. It's amazing. You can change the voice and do all this sort of stuff. But I'm having a lot of fun with this. The beta work came out super well. We are heavy developing the improvements that were requested. And please, you can RSS and subscribe to the blog. I'll share it, but have a look. You can keep up with it. And I'm going to do little mini vlogs like this just to keep up with how it's going. But yeah, beta's usually a really tough thing, but particularly that Intercom plugin just made it really fun. I love chatting with everybody who was using it. What else have we got here? The thing about home sharing registrations, Airbnb registrations, off to a rocky start. It's mainly because NHK was just bashing it relentlessly, but bashing it based on all the concerns that people are expressing about it. In South Korea, if you ever thought that maybe South Korea was warming up to Japan, or at least Japan's better than North Korea, no. Most South Koreans think Kim Jong-un, they see him more positively than Abe, although that said, probably a not small percentage. I'd love to see if they did the survey in Japan. Abe is pretty unpopular at the moment because of the continuing scandal, the Moritomo scandal that I explained last week, and there has been some developments. First of all, the chief bureaucrat who from the finance ministry, who appears to have been at the top of the chain, that was putting the pressure on this on the local branch of the finance ministry to sell this land super cheap to a right-wing school that was sponsored by a right-wing group that was backed by Abe, and they dropped his name a lot and so on. There was a lot of hints in that this was a political sort of cronyism sort of favor thing. It came out that the documents were in fact forged. The head bureaucrat who just resigned, he resigned anyway, and he sort of copped the blame for it. The bureaucrat at the bottom of the end of the chain, who was forced to modify all these internal papers within the Ministry of Finance to hide the pre-meetings that they had with the school and the mentioning of the political influence that was behind the deal, committed suicide. Another finance ministry also committed suicide today. Abe, whose wife is is an honorary honorary chairperson or something, honorary board member of this extreme right-wing school, whose name was cited frequently in the documents as to why they should give them a special deal for this public land. Government is still denying that they actually asked anyone to do any of this, and they're saying that apparently these bureaucrats were trying to do them political favors for nothing in return. It's not clear that there was any direct corruption or whatever, and they are not resigning as a result, but certainly it doesn't look very good, and as a result this week the government's approval ratings have collapsed, and they've looked pretty invincible until now, but we'll see what happens if Abe can ride this one out. If he rides it out, it will be because there is no opposition in Japan. There's just no opposition force to take advantage of this. I think in every other country this would be the end of the government, and I think in Japan they might survive just because the opposition here is just so disorganized. Trump was talking this week about Japanese cars and the non-tariff, the sneaky things that Japanese do in order to prevent American cars being sold in Japan. One thing that he mentioned was Japanese have this test that is just impossible for American cars to pass, that Japanese drop bowling balls on car bonnets from 20 feet up. He later said it was a joke, but you know what, it kind of sounds like he was like advertising Japanese cars. He was like, no car would survive that sort of that sort of a thing. If there's a dent, they fail, he was saying on a tweet or something. Geez, that makes me wonder. It's like he's saying that Japanese cars are much better made than American cars, which isn't the case. Any car would fail this. I don't know. Man, you know what? It's like, I'm not angry at Trump. I mean, Trump is Trump. He hasn't tricked anybody. I can't believe America voted to make someone like that president. And you know, sometimes it's funny. This is kind of funny, but most of the time it's extremely depressing. Foreigner, this guy, what's his name again? Oh God, I can't remember his name. Yabatani. Yeah. Yabatan, Mr. Yabatan made a video. He's made a couple of videos like this, but he's made this one about how wonderful Japanese washlets are. Yes, I feel like I'm in a third world country when I leave Japan that doesn't have washlets, so there you go. The GoPro scandal, the Tkyosamgate, I guess you guys have been following it. It's gotten a little bit stupid. So what's happened is that, you know, the old internet outrage machine has kind of cottoned onto Sam, and this is the risk that you take. This is why don't go there. Don't film people in public. You know, tourists kind of get away with it because, you know, eventually they sort of leave or whatever. But certainly if you're a resident or whatever, there's things that you should just have common sense not to do. And on the one hand, the sushi conveyor belt video that he took was magical. I thought it was a really beautiful it was actually a beautiful video, and I don't think it actually makes Sushiro or any of the people in it look bad. But that said, you know, I mean, we don't know that people at those tables might have had legitimate reasons for not wanting to be filmed, or illegitimate reasons. They might have been there on an illegitimate sort of a date. Who knows? But it is, you know, the privacy thing there was a door open that a lot of trolls took advantage of, and Sushiro got a lot of pressure over this to sort of condemn it and take action over it. And technically, some people have pointed out that, yeah, you could actually... they said, are they going to bring charges? Well, they could bring charges for obstruction of business in Japan, but, you know, it was a GoPro on a sushi conveyor belt. He didn't stop the business, and that law is used when, you know, people burn businesses down. It's for yakuza doing extortion. It's for, you know, it's for pretty extreme sort of things, which this doesn't amount to. But that said, hopefully common sense will prevail in the sense that Sushiro is entitled to be angry about this and to make a statement saying that they condemn it and that they're considering taking action. I think if they actually do sue a customer for shooting a video in one of their restaurants in a way that doesn't really directly interfere with anybody, I think that would be a little bit too much. And it sounds like they're probably doing it the right way. And Sam, on his part, probably needs to hang his head a little bit and just lie low and be apologetic for it now that he's done it. But that said, he got a lot of views. And it was actually a good video. I mean, it was a good video. Don't do it. Please don't copy it. And hopefully Sam will not aggravate the situation. And that'll be the end of it. This is not a Logan Paul thing. He didn't... Geez, people sometimes they talk about this like I think Victor was saying, it's like he shot up a school, which, you know, he didn't actually cause anyone any sort of loss or anything like that. But there again, certainly if anyone actually in the video doesn't want to be in the video, should be taken down. You know, it's not clear. There have been lots of trolls protesting it, whatever. But I think at this point, just letting this one sort of become a flap that goes away, I think is the right way for it to go. And it's a good lesson again for everybody just to remember. One, people in Japan are very sensitive about privacy, and two, yeah, just you know, don't mess with Japanese trolls. You know, just it's not worth it. So yeah. And besides which, that video's now been done a few times. It came out really well this time, but you know, figure out something new anyway. I think there's a bit of hysteria around it. Hopefully they're going to move on to the next thing. I mean, Sam screws up, but he's done a lot of things way worse than this. by Sam's standards, honestly, this is actually doing good as far as I'm concerned. It came out really well, but you know, at the same time, it is, you know, Sushiro's entitled to be upset. So hopefully this will subside anyway. I don't think anyone wants him to be running into what he's been getting for this. So yeah, and it's not like he really went out to harm anybody or do anything like that. So yeah. And Phoenix, even if that's true, you shouldn't say that shit in the comments on a video. Honestly, you shouldn't do that. In fact, yeah, if you want to talk about that stuff, just talk about it on another video. Don't talk about threats against other people or whatever on these videos, please. So another one, if you've seen the Black Mirror episode, where you've got the social liking, the sort of score that you have. I think it's the first episode of season 4. No, season 3. It's really, really good. It looks like China's going to be doing that to see if people are good nationalists. I guess everyone can see it, but I don't want that left there on the. In fact, no, I'm not going to. Just don't seriously, don't do that shit, please. So yeah, China's doing that. Apparently they're going to be checking the things that you'll get credit for is volunteer work, being nice to people, engaging in you know, positive social activities, and posting information that makes people feel good about patriotism online. i.e. Basically it's going to be kind of a way to coerce people to be propagandists for the Chinese government, and they're going to get like goodie points for it, and it's kind of scary. It's really scary. This is really Black Mirror shit. I mean, I do like the idea of social credit for doing legitimately, objectively good things, but I don't think like Shinzo Abe is the greatest prime minister ever, and I really hope he's president for life, and that no one ever and you know, condemn people who criticize him or other countries that would dare criticize anything bad about Japan because there's something about Japan. I wouldn't want to live in a country that I'd get points for that. But certainly, you know, some form of recognition for people who do like volunteer work and so on, I think is good. So you know, I don't know, it's kind of kind of scary. Good news, if you have kids, if you're married to a Japanese and you live particularly outside of Japan, some of you might know about the Hague Convention. There are many conventions called the Hague Convention, but there's a Hague Convention on the parental aspects of child abduction, which is basically to do with when you have a Japanese person and a non-Japanese person marry and have kids, and they are, for example, in America or Europe or New Zealand or wherever, and they get divorced. Japan doesn't really have a very developed family law system or a concept of child custody. It basically always just goes, the child will always go to the mother, and basically the father has no visitation rights. It's pretty much the way it goes 99% of the time in Japan. You lose all rights as a parent when you're divorced. It's like you die. It's quite incompatible with Western concepts of divorce, with visitation rights and you know, custody agreements where kids have to be able to stay nearby or whatever, you know, be able to continue their school. Japan under international pressure, because what was happening under this was when you had Japanese in America divorcing and they were snatching the kids and coming back to Japan, fathers with like visitation rights and with court orders that were giving them rights to access to their children were being denied access to their children in Japan. Basically, Japan was acting like a haven for parents that were abducting their kids in order to gain advantage in custody disputes. Horrible, nasty stuff. a law was passed basically. Japan joined this convention, which basically says that members of this convention will recognize and apply the binding orders, family court orders and custody orders of other countries. So if a father has a custody or joint custody of a child, and the mother, for example, or vice versa, the father abducts a child, we say abduct, but they are the parent, but it's a custody, it's abduction in terms of it's an illegitimately against in violation of a legal custody order, taking the child to Japan, and then seeking to deny access. The Japanese court will uphold the American custody order is the practice. However, what happened in this case, kind of an interesting test case of the court. There was a local court in Nagoya, or Nagoya High Court's Kanazawa branch in Kanazawa, where they actually said, no, we don't care what the overseas, we don't care what the United States order says, we're just going to apply Japanese law here, no visitation rights to the dad. This got escalated to the Supreme Court of Japan, which said that it's illegitimate to actually deny the application of the Hague Convention. So it's kind of a win. Good news is that this is coming in, and it's kind of forcing the Japanese family court system to modernize, and it's actually doing something to resolve custody cases, for new custody cases at least. That said, there are a lot of divorced, mostly fathers, some mothers as well, foreigners whose Japanese spouses have abducted their children back to Japan in the past, and there's no remedy for it's not retroactive, it's only proactive from when it was passed a couple of years ago. So there are online support groups for people who have basically lost their children, lost access to their children through this sort of a thing. It's good that the solution is out there. It's also good that the Supreme Court is properly enforcing it, but unfortunately the benefit only goes to cases that happen from now. A little bit dark, but it's good to know that it's out there, especially for people who are in Japan now, and if these things are in your future plans, it's something which should never have been an issue, but it's good to see that Japanese court is doing the right thing. Kira Ashley, thank you for also mentioning, indeed, a good way to close the show as well, the YouTube Hanami, April 7th, be there and be square, as I say, it's going to be awesome. And that is it, that's Tell. Cherry blossoms are blossoming, and it is all awesome. Indeed, Hanami 9 days earlier than usual this year, but that's it, it's the weather, what can you say? That is the end of the show. It is 11:37. I'm not going to play any music because we're an hour into it. Had a lot of fun tonight. I haven't really had time, by the way, to actually talk much about comments tonight, but I hope you enjoyed the show. Stand by for MyChan updates and so on. Also stand by for Hanami updates, and everybody have a good week there. Butter, I didn't even mention butter. Well, TPP is signed. I'm waiting for the butter to start pouring in and over me. What can I say? I've got issues. I'll see you guys later, and boom, peace. I say that, but then I didn't switch it off because I couldn't find a way to click. I gotta click here, so I'm gonna see you guys all later. Have a good week, everybody, and stay tuned for more MyChan stuff, and see you back here next week, and maybe a 2.5 Voyages. So see you soon, and see you at that Hanami, definitely April 7th. Be there, and please. Okay, see you later.